54957.6. District Negotiator Ilsa Garza Gonzalez, Superintendent. Employee Organizations, FHSTA and SEIU. Underrepresented employees, classified management, certificated management, and confidential employees. Finally, we have the superintendent evaluation. Opportunity for members of the public to address the board on any item described in this agenda for the closed session. Opportunity will be granted for open session items. Government Code, Section 54954.3. Opportunity for members of the public to address the board on any item described in this agenda for the closed session item. Do we have any comments?
We do not.
Okay. We will adjourn to closed session at 4:35. Good evening and welcome to open session. We're going to reconvene to open session at 5:32. Again, announcements, all open sessions of this Board of Trustees are recorded and streamed in real time at www.fuhsd.net. We will begin with the flag salute, and Mr. Christensen will lead that. Thank you. Next, we'll do roll call, Board of Trustees. Eddie Jones, President. President is not here today. Oscar Caralampio, Vice President. I'm present. Paul Christensen, Clerk.
Present.
Tauna Rodarte, Trustee.
Present.
Trustee Area 2 is vacant, and our Superintendent, Ilsa Garza Gonzalez.
Present.
Awesome. Informal review of governing teams norms. The Board of Trustees approved norms. Norms are that we be respectful, be approachable, be open-minded, be communicative, no surprises, be willing to listen, be prepared, and be trustworthy. Report from closed session. Public Employment Discipline Dismissal and Release, Government Code Section 54957, nothing to report. Conference with legal counsel pending litigation, Government Code Section 54956.9 D1, case number 37202000467440CUWTNC, nothing to report. Conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 D2, nothing to report. Conference with labor negotiations, Government Code Section 54957.6, District Negotiator Ilsa Garza Gonzalez, Superintendent, Employee Organizations, FHSTA and SEIU, unrepresented employees, classified management, certificated management, and confidential employees, nothing to report. And superintendent evaluation, nothing to report. We will now adopt the agenda. Can you get a motion, please?
I'll move that the board adopts the agenda for the regular meeting of June 26, 2024 as presented.
I'll second.
Okay. Any additions, deletions, or corrections?
There are none.
Perfect. We go for a vote. Board members, Oscar Carampio. Aye. Mr. Christensen.
Aye.
Mr. Jones is absent. Ms. Rodarte.
Aye.
And Area 2 is vacant. Presentation. We will now have a presentation from the Citizens Oversight Committee presentation by Ms. Donna Dutton.
Hello. My name is Donna Dutton, and I am honored to be a member of the Citizens Oversight Committee since 2021. I've actually been a member of this community for over 40 years, and both of my children graduated from Fallbrook High School, Janelle in 1993. Ooh, shouldn't say numbers. And my son in 1988, Janelle, and John 1993. So anyway, so I'm here to read the yearly Citizens Oversight Committee report from Sherry Weishar. She's our chairperson of the committee who was unable to be here tonight. So I think you have the letter or in the agenda, or you can just listen to me. So, dear Fallbrook Union High School District Board of Trustees, as the chairperson of the Citizens Oversight Committee, I'm pleased to present this consolidated report on our meetings held during the fiscal year 2023-24. Our committee, established on March 13th, 2017, continues to uphold its mandate of ensuring that funds associated with bond measure AA are spent as outlined in the measure's ballot language. It is essential to reiterate the board and public the specific bond language that guides our operations. As approved on the November 8th, 2016 ballot, bond measure AA funds are to be used explicitly for the improvement of the Fallbrook High campus. More specifically, Article 13A, Section 1, Subdivision B3 of the California Constitution authorizes the expenditure of these funds for the construction, reconstruction, rehabilitation, or replacement of school facilities, including the furnishings and equipping of school facilities or the acquisition or lease of real property for school facilities. Consequently, as per Article 13A, Section 1, Subdivision B3A of the California Constitution, no bond revenues are expended for any teacher and administrative salaries or other school operating expenses. This serves as our guiding principle in the oversight and approval of bond expenditures. In the 2023-24 year, the COC scheduled quarterly meetings and reviewed a range of bond expenditures covering various projects. These included electrical upgrades, modernization projects, infrastructure improvements, and more. And in your agenda are a complete list of everything that we analyzed. Meeting overview. In our meetings held on September 27th, 2023, March 20, 2024, and May 28, 2024, we conducted a thorough review of bond expenditures with the total for the 23-24 fiscal year amounting to $11,293,458. Key infrastructure projects were the highlight of these meetings. They included, the modernization of the 400 building, housing JROTC, media, and patient care classrooms. Particularly significant was the opening of these new classrooms in the 400 building and the start of construction of the new CTE STEAM building, as well as the auto shop. We received a 2022-23 Measure AA audit report, which showed the financial status for the district. The fund balance stood at $28,016,782, with no findings reported indicating prudent financial management. We suggested that the positive report should be shared with the community through various channels, including local media. Our meetings also involved organizational matters. We implemented digitally signing minutes due to travel restrictions, and we were able to be present at the ribbon-cutting opening of the 400 building. In conclusion, the Citizens Oversight Committee remains vigilant in ensuring the prudent utilization of bond revenues guided by the specific bond language and our committee's bylaws. Our focus is to keep the district accountable and transparent in its financial dealings, and we look forward to continuing our service in the upcoming year. Respectfully submitted, Sherry Weishar, Chairperson, Citizens Oversight Committee, Fallbrook Union High School District. And I want to just close with one thing. I was thrilled when you took us on the tour of the 400 building and seeing all the CTE classrooms. I was at Temecula Valley High School and Chaparral High School while we were under the trimester system. So I was so excited that this high school transitioned into that system, so our students in this community can take advantage of all those CTE courses because their schedules have now opened up. So anyway, really proud of that. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments for Ms. Dutton?
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to say thank you no, that's okay. I just wanted to say thank you very much to yourself and the entire committee. Obviously, you were very diligent in doing I was reading the reports and the numbers along while you were reading the letter, and really am very grateful for that because I just think that's such a huge part is fiduciary oversight of what we do. So thank you for your commitment.
Oh, you're
and
welcome.
Well
Thank
done.
you. Like I said, it's an honor, and so, anyway.
Just real quick, Mrs. Dutton, likewise, thank you for your time commitment for the committee. There should be something said for a community member being here for 40 years, still being active and engaged in the community and making sure bond money is allocated correctly, and we appreciate that positive report, as well as just the connection with Fallbrook. I go back with your family many years.
I know.
I just saw your son at church a couple weeks ago, so I'm sure he still holds a few records of the football stadium, and it hasn't changed much other than the turf. But ultimately, thank you, pass along to the committee as well, but thank you for
I will.
your diligence in the community and giving back time and energy to make sure that high school's spending our money correctly, the taxpayers' money, as well as moving forward with the high school and all the development. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think it's our responsibility to be the voices out in the community, and that's why I think that's a variety of members on the committee. So I think we need to be the mouths out there, you know. Okay.
I would like to have this be released, maybe like a press release or something like that. I think that would be a very nice thank you and also show fiduciary accountability for our school.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, and lastly, just again, what our board members said, thank you so much for all the time that you have devoted into the community, and we really appreciate everything that you do. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Chris, we can't hear the speakers at the podium. In the beginning, we could, but this second time around, we could not.
Thank you. We go on to our second presentation with potential 2024 general obligation bond election and draft bond resolution by Adam Buer and Jason Chung, Fieldman, Rolap and Associates, and Samuel Santana, Dennis Woolever Kelly.
Great. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Jason Chung. I am with Fieldman, Rolap and Associates, and we are the district's municipal advisor. And tonight I have a short presentation covering the district's GEO bond program. I'll be covering what has been issued in the past and what could also be generated this November for a potential bond. And we start with assessed valuation. And this is a figure that defines all of the taxable value inside of your boundaries. This includes all residential properties such as single-family homes and condos, as well as non-residential properties such as commercial and industrial properties. And we've tracked this data all the way back to 1989, so covering over 35 years of data. And what we've seen is your average growth during that period is over 5%. That is considered very strong and very stable. For your previous measure AA, we assumed only a 3.5% growth projection. So every year that your actual assessed value comes in higher than 3.5%, then that results in lower tax rates for your community, which has been the case. And then you can see on the far right is the graphical chart, and on the bottom is your district's bonding capacity. So as a non-unified district, you are allowed up to 1.25% of your assessed value. That amount is $100 million, and that is the amount that you can have outstanding in bond principal at any point in time. And so you're well under that threshold. You only have $38 million outstanding. And so this slide also shows the projected payments on the previous measure AA. This was the bond approved in November 2016 for $45 million. Very strong voter support at nearly 65%. And all of the $45 million has been issued in just 3 series of bonds. That's noted in the orange bars, the dark blue, and the light blue. When you add all 3 of those bars together, the projected tax rate for the community through the life of the bonds is only projected to be about $21 to $22 per 100,000 of assessed value. And that is lower than the rate that we projected to voters at the time of the 2016 election. We had actually projected a tax rate of about $26.50. And so the benefit of all of the strong assessed value growth and the low interest rates that you were able to lock in when you sold those bonds, the benefit of those 2 things resulted in lower projected tax rates on your community. And the tax rates on these bonds are expected to last until 2046, so about 22 more years. And the next 3 slides I'm about to show you show the projection of what the district could generate on a potential new bond this November. And these taxes would be additional taxes on top of what is already being paid on Measure AA. And we started at a base rate of $19, and this is equaling a par amount of about $45 million, which equals the authorization amount of Measure AA at a lower projected tax rate. We're able to show the same amount of funding at just a $19 tax rate compared to $26.50 because we're starting at such a higher assessed value point in this year compared to 2016. Your tax base has just expanded a large amount in 8 years. And we were showing a projection of 4 bond series, all current interest bond financing, which is the most efficient form of financing you can do. And we're showing also a 3.5% assessed value growth. So very conservative when you've been growing over 5% on average. The next slide is the $24 tax rate, so a little bit higher tax rate, and now we can generate $56 million using those same assumptions, so roughly $14 million per bond series. And then finally is the $30 tax rate, which is the largest tax rate you could pursue as a non-unified district, and we're showing a max authorization figure at the $70 million level, which is, I think, what was surveyed in your survey. And finally, we just show the 3 main scenarios side by side with comparisons. On the far right is the projected annual cost for this new bond for the median taxpayer. And we've taken this median assessed value from a third party, and the median assessed value for the current year is $526,000. So $19 per 100,000 equates to just under $100 per year for the median taxpayer at $19 per 100,000. At the highest $30 tax rate, that would equate to roughly $158. And so these are all projections, and as a non-unified district, you can pursue any tax rate. You're not locked into these 3 tax rates. If for whatever reason you want to pursue a $22 tax rate or an $18 tax rate is preferred, you certainly have that option, and you can just direct the district staff with that. But that concludes the financial-related slides. If there are any questions on finances, happy to address them. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to Mr. Santana to talk about legal documents.
One quick question. I might have missed you said the surveyed amount that was surveyed in the community was $30? Is that correct?
$30 per 100,000. They actually surveyed 3 different tax rates, but the bond amount that was surveyed equated to the $30 level.
And that was favorable at that time?
Yes, a little over 60%.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you for your time.
Good evening. Samuel Santana. I'm a shareholder with Dennis Oliver Kelly. I'm the district's bond counsel. And a second item that you have on your agenda today as an informational item is the bond resolution. And that bond resolution right now has placeholders in it pending direction from the board about how much the authorization should be. In essence, the bond resolution is going to call for the election for November 5th of 2024, if you do approve it at your next board meeting. The bond resolution has 3 key components that are vital to meet all the legal requirements. So Exhibit A is the 75-word bond measure. So that's the language that we've drafted that will be on the ballot. So that's actually what you would see when you go into the ballot box and choose yay or nay on the bond measure. That is limited to 75 words. It has key legal requirements in it. One of the foremost is the bond authorization amount. So that's pending, as we know. Exhibit B, that's the bond project list. So this bond resolution is a authorization under Prop 39. Essentially, that's going to require a 55% approval from the voters. So if 55% of the voters vote in favor or more, vote in favor of the bond measure, then the bond measure would pass. In exchange for that passage rate, we have several legal requirements that we have to meet. We can't spend any money on teacher salaries. We have to appoint an oversight committee. You guys just received the oversight committee report for the 2016 Measure AA bond, so we would have a similar committee for the new bond measure if that were to pass. We would have to have performance and financial audits to make sure that The bond funds are used only for facilities and only for items that are on the bond project list. So those are the legal requirements. Those are the trade-offs for having that 55% passage rate. So Exhibit B sets forth those requirements that we're going to adhere to, and it also sets forth the bond project list. So that bond project list was put together by district staff and consultants. If the measure were to pass, if you were to approve the resolution and then the measure goes on the November ballot and it passes by the voters, we're going to be limited to what's in that bond project list in terms of what we can spend money for, what we can spend money on. So it's important for you to review that bond project list, make sure you're comfortable with it, because if it's not on there, we're not going to be able to spend bond money on it. And that's one of the requirements from Prop 39, is we have to be very specific in terms of what we're going to have the voters approve, and we're going to be limited to those bond projects. And then Exhibit C is the tax rate statement. That tax rate statement right now has blanks because that tax rate statement will be prepared by Jason and Adam. They're going to take the authorization amount, calculate what the tax rate would be, and we saw the $19, $24, and $30 options. And then we set that forth in the tax rate statement so that the voters can clearly see what the tax rate is, what the cost is going to be, how much we're going to authorize, and how much the ultimate payments are going to be, and then also what the term of the bond is going to be, how long that's going to run for. So those are the legal requirements. You've heard the financial parameters from Jason, and I'd be happy to answer any questions on the resolution or anything related to the election. Okay.
I'm kind of glancing at the form, and I could take the time, but I don't want to take too much time. Would this include, I know the pool is a huge issue, and I know that was during a lot of the community meetings that were referenced to. Is that one of the items that's listed under the
Did you say pool?
repairs works?
The pool, yeah, there's an item under for athletic facilities in that first category, the modernization and improvement category, and I think there's also an educational programming
Yeah, and
facilities category.
I have just glancing at it as well, but as long as maybe in the ballot or in the measure that it specifies athletic facilities, but pool being a primary concern, something for the public just to acknowledge that that's what we're trying to push money for, to go toward replacement of the pool in whatever future endeavor, how that occurs. But specifically, that would be a main concern for, at least for me on the board.
Okay, yeah, it's
Yeah.
covered now, but we'll put more specifics behind it like you
Yeah,
noted.
I definitely want to second that. When we say athletics, we're opening it up to the football stadium, soccer fields. I want to make sure that we lock in that aquatic statement, because I know it's something that the community has pushed for. So I don't want them to believe that we're going to, not support the aquatics team again, and push it more towards a different sport.
Ms. Garza Gonzalez, I believe at the state level, because of the condition of the pool and facilities, weren't we ranked as needing improvement or whatever the category is? Could that verbiage also be included, that the state has reviewed the condition of existing pool and, accommodating facilities and are rated, whatever the terminology is that they used?
That it is a hardship and that paperwork is still being completed? Yes, but the state doesn't have any money, so it doesn't really make an impact. Like, yes, they've made it a hardship, but they don't have money to give us, to help us with that at this time.
But I think as a parent whose daughter was a water polo and swimmer, I think knowing that, just because we've experienced that, even if it doesn't get us any state money, I think just knowing that the state acknowledges that, I think that would help convince voters that maybe aren't personally aware of what the condition of the pool facilities are.
Yes, that is something that we can consider. Now, keep in mind, it is a 75-word ballot statement, so anything that we add means that we are going to have to take away, because I think we're at 74 words.
Yeah, and I think the 75 words will, I think, pretty much stay as is, but we can put those concepts into Exhibit B, which is also going to be in the ballot pamphlet, in the ballot materials, and that Exhibit B is really what needs to include all of that, because that's what we're going to look for if we have any questions about what the projects are. So we can work on that with district staff and make sure it is
And
accurate.
Robin, did you want to say something?
I think that it's, check them to the, sorry.
Can you come to the mic, please? Thank you.
This way,
Your mic is on.
She is our consultant that is working on the proposed bond measure with us and all the verbiage that goes into it. And so that's what her specialty is, in bonds, so she can explain.
thank you. Yes, Robin Garrity with Props and Measures, and we work with school districts and other agencies, strategies and communications, along with your bond council and financial team, and then as well as with Tim McClarney from True North, who did the polling. And while it is well known through your inside groups about the need for the pool, remember the whole community votes on this, that doesn't have needs for the pool, that inside group does. And so we need the whole community to vote for the bond to move it forward, right? And so those 75 words are crafted, about half of them are legal terms that have to be included, and the other half are top projects that we know through the polling, through that scientific study, that the community supports. You have to pass the bond, and then you as a board get to decide how those funds are used. It's not deceptive in the sense that we're still providing safe environments, safe learning experiences, safe learning environments, updating classrooms, updating facilities, it does say, and school facilities. So it is not a deceptive term, but we are putting forth the best 75 words we know that we believe your community will support. Another place to include information about the pool would be in an FAQ on the district's website as a explaining the safety needs for athletics. And I would encourage you to consider using athletics and facilities as a whole, not just focusing on one or another, because you have a group that's very invested in the pool, but you also have avid soccer fans and right? So we want to just say, as a whole, athletic facilities are very important to the district, and safe, right? Safe athletic facilities are important to the district. So we can work on that language and add that in the supplemental messaging, but we want to really encourage you to stick with those 75 words that the community will see when they vote, because it's been very carefully put together. Does that help? Is that helpful?
Yeah, no, that clarifies it. I think we're putting the cart ahead of the horse a little bit up here in pigeonholing some of that terminology, which I agree we don't need to at this time. We just, as an overall, I agree, we overall just bringing in the entire community, because it's not just about the pool, it's about
Right.
A lot of the facilities,
Right.
athletic and non-athletic facilities that need to be addressed in the next, 10, 15, 20,
That's
50
right.
years. So I agree with that. It clarifies it for me, and I appreciate it.
Absolutely, and that's why the project list is long and broad, because something could happen in between the issuance of the second and the third that requires you to pivot, and you want to be able to pivot if you have to pivot, right? And to meet the safety and educational needs of the students. So I think we're looking for, if I may, looking for direction from the board as far as thoughts on amounts. Confirmation, this was good, helpful with the 75 words and having this dialogue. Questions about that project list, the bond project list. Is this comprehensive? Is there something that we missed from you, so that if the board pleases, that the plan is to bring this back July 10th, that's not a time of where, oh, we thought about this, what if, right? Because once July 10th comes and goes, I think you don't meet again until after the deadline to submit the resolution to the registrar of voters, and we don't want to miss that opportunity.
Absolutely agree. I do feel like we do need a verbiage somewhere in there about the pool, because I think there are some people in the community who would look at it, oh, it's a pool, this is a luxury.
Right.
Where at this point, the condition of our pool, that frequently our students are literally cannot utilize and have been transported to Camp Pendleton or the swimming pool area in Vista, that it really is a safety and health issue, not a, luxurious, we're putting a backyard so you can suntan or,
Yeah,
that kind of
yeah,
thing.
absolutely.
But I totally agree with you, and I think in your community meetings, you had some feedback as to the amounts that the community felt comfortable with.
If you recall the polling that was done, the $19 per 100,000 of assessed value polled the best. The $24 per 100,000 of assessed value was close behind, but this is very important to us. $19 per 100,000 would give us a $45 million bond. $24 per 100,000 would give us a $56 million bond. Also to Robin's point, if you remember in that polling, physical activities polled the lowest of anything else. It was not a top priority. Now, when we did the work around the facilities master plan, it polled a lot higher. But when it was a random sampling of the entire Fallbrook community, that polled very low, which is why it's suggested that we keep it broad as physical, the safety of our physical fitness facilities. I think the board has been very clear with our community that that means an aquatic center.
And we could also release media releases that would educate the community what would be more included. And you said there was accommodating additional information that could be included, that would phrase that. And I don't recall the numbers in front of me. If we did it at the $24 or $19 amounts, would that cover the proposed budget, the vast majority of what we had looked to do that had been previously presented?
It would cover most of the projects in phase 2, obviously because of inflation. By the time we actually get to that point, we may have to scale some of them back. But yes, the reason that we created the facilities master plan was, number one, we don't have the facilities to be able to move students to another part of the campus. So that allows us to really look at the domino effect. It allows us, as we look ahead of what are some of the upcoming projects, to save money that way, because we're not modernizing a building that maybe a year from now we're going to tear down to replace with something new. So yes, it's all in there. Again, it has to be broad enough, as Robin stated, to pivot in the event that we have to because of an unforeseen condition or emergency.
So that would be phase 1 and phase 2 would be covered.
Phase 2
Just phase
of the facilities master plan, because we're completing phase 1 right now with the current bond.
I would just say, I'm not huge on taxes. If it's polled, I realize the school, the community needs, and the concerns of our school of being, one, we're pigeonholed into a little landlocked area, and we've never really built up. We've kind of just modified, broke down, rebuilt. $19 is very conservative. I think if we're going for a bond, $30 is maybe in this economy a little steep. I would be very happy at I wouldn't say very happy, but I'd be content on a $24 bond. And I say that because it's getting us $11 million more, getting us closer to completing phase 2, if not, not having to scale back as much. So I would lean toward the $24. That's giving us a much bigger opportunity to expand or increase the potential for our school and that community and all the activities, not just sports, but the band, the arts, all those things can be expanded on, which is greatly needed for our school. And it's not just about a pool, it's about all the facilities. They're old, they're outdated, and I think the community knows that. So I personally lean toward a $24 bond, if that helps with any direction. As far as me, the rest of the board can weigh in on theirs, but that's where I would lean. It's a close second from the 19. The economy ideally gets better. You know, we're in election year, so who knows what happens, but that's where I would lie.
I would agree. I was leaning toward 24 or 25 as well, kind of splitting the difference.
Yeah, 24 seems like the pathway to take it for now.
Okay.
You're looking at like $125 approximately for the $24 bond.
That's correct.
That seems more realistic and reasonable for voters than dumping $158, which also isn't excessive, but in this economy and the community dynamics and the demographics, I think splitting the two is the best.
Sometimes it's a psychological impression, you know, so under 150, right? Or under that $30 maximum. As we proceed with this process, the district has put some informational materials regarding a potential measure. It's under a tab called School Improvements, and we've put forth some information. There's an FAQ there. There's a fact sheet. We've put the facilities master plan. So each time we move forward with changing our information a little bit, we will update the website so that it's available and transparent. The board is doing a good job. The district's doing a good job being transparent. That's important to the community and to the San Diego Taxpayers Association, San Diego County Taxpayers Association. So it's you're following all the right steps. I want to just make sure that that's being said and being diligent in and mindful about your decision making. So that's important to your community. Any other questions?
Can you remind me, and it may have been referred to, what our timelines are in order to make that decision in time for the election?
Yes, I think staff will be looking for direction from you, whether you would like this, I believe your last board meeting of, well, I guess this is the last board meeting of 23, 24. So you have a meeting July 10th, I believe, scheduled, and then the resolution is due to the registrar of voters before August 9th. And I would not recommend doing a meeting on August 8th. That would stress that would stress Sam out.
We're always capable of holding a special
If you need
meeting
to.
if need be.
Sure.
But I think this gets the ball rolling for us, so.
Okay.
We'll confer with each other and Ilsa and Brenda, and we'll go from there, but is that enough direction?
Absolutely.
Idea? I know we're missing one board member, but I think he's probably on board around the same process, so I won't speak for him, but thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. We're available if you need us.
Yes, I will add that I have clear direction on what to do as we continue to work with our consultants, and that resolution will be on the agenda for the July 10th meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to move on to public comments. As a reminder, the Fallbrook Union High School District Board of Education encourages and invites the public to comment on agenda and non-agenda items. Individual speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. Per legislation 1292, the board will give twice the allotted time to a member of the public who utilizes translating technology assistance to address the board. Total public input on any one subject will be limited to 20 minutes and may be extended at the discretion of the board president. Comments on non-agenda items will be heard at this time. Comments on an agenda item may be taken at this time or when the agenda item is discussed by the board. Speakers will be called in order by topic and when a card is submitted. Do we have any public comments?
We do. Jennifer Montgomery.
Good evening. I'm heartened by what I've been hearing about the bond with regards to aquatics, so I'm going to use this opportunity just basically to get my comments on public record, because like I said, I appreciate the discussion that I just heard. I'm here to speak in support of the board and district moving forward with a bond focusing on facilities improvements, and I look forward to all of the Fallbrook community enthusiastically supporting this bond on behalf of its students and teachers. However, I am concerned that in preliminary language concerning the bond, there's nothing specified for the pool or aquatics facilities, because funding for a new pool facility has been promised for decades through multiple superintendents and trustees. Too many pivots, as she said, have been made. Lip service and assurances have been made that money from the last 2 bonds Fallbrook passed would go towards fixing our aging pool, only to see that money diverted to other priorities, including other athletic facilities. Aquatics families were told that the reason the pool didn't see any money from the last bond we passed is because the language wasn't specific enough. And here we are again with vague language about athletic facilities. So what assurances do we have that once again money won't be diverted to a different athletic need? Yes, as a whole, athletics is important, but promises have been made about the pool. I understand that with an aging campus, everything is a priority, everything is falling apart, and everyone feels that their part of campus is the most important. But the aquatics facilities should absolutely be a top priority for a number of reasons. First, the major overhaul needs of the pool are not a recent issue. Leaks, exposed rebar, and lack of appropriate locker room facilities have been an issue for decades, and all attempts to ameliorate these issues have fallen on deaf ears. Secondly, a modern and functioning pool is not just an asset to the high school, but to the community as a whole. I disagree with her. The entire community does need this pool. Hundreds of Fallbrook children take swim lessons every summer and have for years, taught by trained Fallbrook High School swimmers and lifeguards who take on teaching as their first summer job. Think of that. Over the decades, thousands of Fallbrook children have learned to swim right here in our pool. The positive impact of years of this summer swim program in our community cannot be overstated. I urge you to also consider creative partnerships that help make the pool accessible to the wider community. The fact that our Southern California town has no public pool options is ridiculous. Investing in an aquatics facility for our school and creatively connecting it to our town, either via county or foundational support, would not only give our children more safe and healthy options for learning and play, it would give Fallbrook yet another place to come together as a community. Having a vision of a pool that would benefit everyone in town, not just the school, would also strengthen voting support for this bond. I've been to multiple long-term planning meetings. I've taken all the surveys. We have an incredibly knowledgeable resource in Sean and Mary Redmond. Please use them. They know every inch and every drop of water at our facility. They have made the plans. They have run our aquatics program for 30 years. We are ready. We are desperate for an updated aquatics facility, and we ask that you prove you believe it is a priority as well by specifying the language in the bond to include its overhaul and specifically budgeting for what will be needed. Thank you.
There are no other public verbal comments.
Thank you. Now we go on to communications and reports. Report from board members. Does anybody want to go first?
I can make it quick. We got a lot on the agenda. I'm going to pass to the next.
Yeah, we really don't have much to report since we just had our last board meeting last week. But just in general, this board has worked very hard over the last, in particular, 6 months, 9 months, with a lot of very specific technical issues to get them done in time for this year. It was a priority, and we've worked very effectively to do that. And pool discussion pretty much happens every single month. So this is a priority that we are very aware of. And staff and the board has been working toward that. So I'll leave it at that.
And no report for me. Next, we have the report from our superintendent.
Yes, so I am happy to report that today we received a letter from the WASC Association, which is the Western Association of Schools and Colleges, on the visit, the accreditation visit for Oasis High School that took place earlier this year, and Oasis has received a 6-year accreditation, which is the highest accreditation that a school can obtain, with a midterm visit in the 26-27 school year. So kudos to Ms. Gardner and all of the work that she did with her staff at Oasis, as well as with the district staff, and with our board president that met with the visiting team on the wonderful job that they did.
That's such great news. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for the update. Next, we have agenda items, education services. Number 1 would be an action item, new course ethnic studies. Can I get a motion, please?
I'll make the motion that the board approve the new course, Ethnic Studies, as presented.
I'll second.
Do we have any discussions? Okay, we'll go on to the vote. Mr. Caralampio, I say aye. Mr. Christensen?
Aye.
Mr. Jones is absent. Ms. Rodarte?
Aye.
And Area 2 is vacant. Next, we have an action item, Proposition 28, Report and Plan, Arts and Music Education Funding Program. Can I get a motion, please?
I'll motion for the action item, Proposition 28, Report and Plan, Arts and Music Education Funding Program, that the board approve the Proposition 28 Report and Plan, Arts and Music Education Funding Program as presented.
I'll second that.
Any comments?
Yes, there's actually a presentation to go along with that. Ms. Toon?
Superintendent Garza Gonzalez and members of the board. We do have our Prop 28 report and plan, so we actually have a report for the 23-24 school year, and then we have the plan for the 24-25 school year. So just as a recap, this Prop 28 money is for our arts, and because we are over 500 students, there are some restrictions to the money that we've received, so we need to spend 80% of those funds on certificated or classified staffing, and then 20% are allocated for materials and supplies. There are waivers available, but we have needs of using those 80% funds for staffing, which we have done. So I'll explain a little bit more there. I've already kind of explained a little bit of this. Annually, we are required to present to the board a report. So that is the initial part of this plan, and then the second part is what we will be continuing moving forward. There we go. So in 22-23, we were allocated that $348,763 that we've been using during the 23-24 school year. That's 1% of our LCFF funding. And what I've done is I've just broken it out here so you can see where those expenditures have ended up. We did not spend the entire amount. We have 3 years to spend the allocation each year, and so we will continue to get allocations and have 3 years to spend them. We spent 81% on staffing. We do have an additional art teacher, and that was in part made possible because of the trimester system and the increased need for our electives. And so you'll see there at the bottom that in 22-23, 1,039 students were in arts courses, but with the trimester system, with the additional art teacher, we were able to increase that number to 1,312 students who are in our arts courses, and that includes ceramics, dance, choir, band, and all of our different art courses. 5.2% of our staff were in the arts in 22-23. And then with the trimester and the additional art teacher, and then we did have some art teachers who were doing additional sections, a 5/4, if you will, instead of a prep, they would teach an additional class. And so that brought us up to 6.99 certificated staff members for the 23-24 school year. And then you can see we spent about 19% on materials and supplies, and some of that was conferences, some of those were actual supplies for the arts classrooms, for the choir classrooms, some of it was field trips, and some of it was stipends and bringing people in to support our existing staff and give our students more robust experiences in the arts. So this is just the same information, but broken down if you want to see it a little bit more granularly in terms of Our certificated staff in 22-23, we had no classified staff in 22-23 or in 23-24. And then you can see where the increase in the certificated staff came in 23-24. And so you can see that a lot of that came in our art classes there from 1.4, moving up to that 2.91 for our certificated staff. And then we have our plan moving forward for the 24-25 school year. So very similar. Our allocation, like I said, is 1% of our LCFF funding. So right now what we have there is just an estimate of what we're anticipating to receive. 80% of that we are planning for staffing. So we will continue with our art teacher. In 23-24, 594 students were taking art courses. We are looking at bringing in some classified positions for both band and dance. And so you can see in band, we had 87 students participating in those band courses, and in dance, 126 students. And this decision was made with the input of our arts teachers and union representatives in terms of what was going to be the best use of the funds for the 80% funding. And then to the right, you can see how much we have allocated for materials and supplies. That breaks down a little bit more deeply on the next slide. So what we've done to make sure that we're equitably providing those funds to our departments is we've looked at how many sections are in each, and then we have a per section allocation. So because we have 2 choir sections, her funding is going to be a little bit less in terms of what we allocate to her for materials and supplies compared to band, dance, art, and ceramics that have far more sections, so they have a higher funding amount. And then for Ivy and Oasis, they are under that 500 student mark, so we are just allocating 20% to Ivy and Oasis for supplies, and so you can see where those numbers come in there. And that's all I have for you. Any questions?
Looks great. I love seeing it.
Great.
No questions, just an observation. We saw the number from the Teatro en Español skyrocketed, and it was evident when the students came to perform at Maelis from 2 years ago to last year, how many more students were there, the different responsibilities that the students had. It was really great to see more support.
Thank you. She's been doing a good job. Most students were reticent to try teatro, but she's done a great job of providing them opportunities to do the acting, which makes some of them are comfortable with and some are not, and then doing screenwriting or setting up props or doing management. And so she's provided a really robust opportunity for students to participate.
And the trimester also allowed for more students to be able to take the class, which is one of the reasons why enrollment was low previously under the semester system.
Correct.
And just from the slide, you're looking at a band, a classified band teacher, as well as a dance teacher for this coming fall?
Yes, correct.
And for band, it's not so much a teacher as it is a coach.
Correct. It's a classified coach, so they would support Mr. Lee.
Thank you. Yeah, so now we'll go on to the votes. Mr. Carolampio says aye. Mr. Christensen?
Aye.
Mr. Jones is absent. Ms. Rodarte?
Aye.
And Area 2 is vacant. Next, action item number 4, State Dashboard, Local Indicators 2024-2025. Can I get a motion, please?
I think we skipped one of the action items. Action item number 3?
Sorry about that. Okay, so move on. We'll move back to action item number 3, 2024-2025, Art, Music, and Instructional Materials Discretionary Block Grant Plan. Can I get a motion, please?
I'll make the motion that the board approve the 2024 to 2025 Arts, Music, and Instructional Materials Discretionary Block Grant as presented.
I'll second.
Do we have a presentation for this?
We do. Ms. Toon?
We are very lucky because we've had years where there's been a dearth of funds available for our arts, but we are very lucky that we have Prop 28 and our Arts Block Grant for the next few years. The Arts Block Grant is a little bit different than Prop 28. It has some restrictions, but not the same restrictions that Prop 28 does in terms of using those funds for staffing. There's a lot more wiggle room and breadth of opportunity to use the Arts Block Grant, as you can see in the list of items from professional development to multilingual texts, operational costs, COVID and personal protective equipment. We have chosen to really focus these funds on the arts, ensuring that they have what they need, especially because these are one-time funds that will go away. So they are trying to make sure that they are set up for the years where these funds will not be in existence. Originally, we were allocated that 1.2 million. However, that was cut with a 50% reduction, as we've seen a lot of things be cut in the recent past few months, past year. What we've done is we've taken that 629,000 and we've allocated it equally across years. We have until 25-26 to spend all of the funds. So anything that hasn't been spent in one particular year, we roll that over, we reallocate it out to our programs within the VAPA department. And so the way that this has been allocated is similar, but has a few differences. So with last year's carryover, we have $160,000 or so to work with for the 24-25 school year. The first thing that we've done, because every program has a different number of students and we want to make sure they have equitable access to professional development and field trips, is we've allocated that $90,000 so that they all have an equitable opportunity to utilize those funds. The next piece is there are still some needs in terms of desks and art tables, so we have about $20,000 set aside to purchase some additional things there. We have that new art teacher, so we are making sure that her classroom is completely set up. And then from there, whatever's remaining, we have then allocated out, very similar to Prop 28, where we've looked at it by section. So by section, then there's an allocation by section, and then each of those different programs receives those funds that they can work with. So between the Prop 28 money and the Arts Block money, they've created a proposal of the things that they would like to use the money for in the 24-25 school year. Lauren Jones and Lauren Gardner and I approved that. And they have quite a few good things that they have planned. So these are just a couple, not exhaustive, but a couple things that they're looking at. Band has used and continues to look at using some of these funds to help pay for their competition busing and busing to venues for performances, which is very similar to what choir does as well. Maintaining and upkeeping the costumes, flags, instruments, and instrument repair, which we know is very important to Mr. Lee. For dance, similarly, we have field trips. In the pandemic, they purchased CLI, which is a membership where they get virtual choreography. They have virtual guest teachers, and that we continue to pay for that through these funds. Our art team is looking at field trips and drawing excursions so that they can provide some real-world experience for students. Our ceramics teacher is looking at expanding different types of clay, giving them different mediums to work with, and potentially bringing them on some field trips as well. And then yearbook at Fallbrook High School. Ms. Smith usually attends a conference and she brings her students with her. And then additional materials and supplies to make sure that yearbook is running smoothly. And then yearbook at Ivy and photography for Ivy is very similar. Professional learning and materials and supplies. And then we have teatro there at the bottom, and that is field trips. That includes the busing to May Ellis. And then professional learning, so sometimes she'll bring people in. Props and supplies, we're paying for stipends for people to come in and support her as well. And that's all I have for Arts Block. If you have any questions on that one.
Looks great. One question for you, since Fallbrook is known to be a very arts community, and we have the art school, down the road. Do we have any kind of partnership with them? And, do students go there, or do they come here as well?
We don't have an existing partnership yet, but I know that the team has been talking a lot about what they can do to bring those partnerships and bring those guest speakers in terms of utilizing some of these funds. And especially with those classified positions, we know that we're really looking at either alumni or people within the community who want to just come and contribute to the arts at the school.
Awesome, yeah, because I know one of the things they do is glass blowing and working with metal arts, which would be, very difficult to do in our facility since it requires very specialized equipment. So, thank you, looks great.
No more comments or questions. We move on to the vote. Mr. Caralampio? Aye. Mr. Christensen?
Aye.
Mr. Jones is absent. Ms. Rodarte?
Aye.
And Area 2 is vacant. Okay, now, action item number 4. State Dashboard Local Indicators 2024-2025. Can I get a motion, please?
I'll motion for the action item, State Dashboard, Local Indicators 24-25.
I'll second that.
Thank you. And do we have a presentation? Ms. Kuhn, thanks.
You're the show of the day.
Making sure to sit close. All right. Along with our local control and accountability plan, we have to approve our local indicators. So with our local control and accountability plan, we have to hit 8 state priorities. They are all hit between the local indicators and the LCAP itself. These will not be exhaustive in terms of all 8, but these are the ones that are separate of the plan that we need to post on our dashboard. So priority 1 is appropriately assigned teachers, access to curriculum, safe, clean, and functional school facilities. And so we have no identified deficiencies or extreme deficiencies in terms of facilities. We have things that we know that have already been in discussion, such as the pool, but those are not necessarily a deficiency in terms of allowing us to just do business on a base level. Teachers and instructional materials. We do have, as you can see, and this is some data that we pulled directly out of CDE, 78.8% of our teachers are clear. We do have some out of field, which just means that they have a teaching credential and they are teaching something that's out of their credential for a limited period of time, but they have an actual certificate that allows them to do that. And then down there at the bottom, you'll see access to instructional materials. All of our students are good. It's not that our students don't have access, it's that we have no deficiencies and no percentage of our students who are missing instructional materials. Priority 2 is implementation of our state standards. And so there's a lot of information, but it boils down to in the report that we have done a lot of work with our departments in terms of curriculum alignment, creating common assessments, developing those systems for teachers to talk about that data, and then create actionable plans in the classroom to try to support our students. And so you can see the list of departments that have done that work already. Our CTE department has participated in that work. They don't have their own common assessments, but they've looked at the data for their own students in the other departments and have worked with our other departments at times to try to make some inroads with students, especially because they have really good relationships, it tends to be, with our students. And then moving forward, this year, we had department-based learning walks with our world language department, and we are planning to do department-based learning walks with all of our departments in the 24-25 school year. So we qualify as MET for priority 2. Priority 3 is our parental involvement and family engagement, and there's a lot of information there, but I've boiled it down to all of those bullets on the right are a variety of different opportunities that we offer to our parents to engage with our school. We have a bilingual liaison, a bilingual college and career liaison. We have our college and career center. We also now have a new K-14 grant-funded counselor. We pay for an additional counselor out of LCAP, which is in Goal 1, Action 2. We do home visits for our new teachers. We have our PTSA, our variety of committees, DLAC, ELAC, school site council, and then our principals offer things like coffee with the principal or dinner with the counselor. And then Mano a Mano and PK are some workshops that we have offered in the past that have been very well attended, upwards of 80 parents attending some of those. We also offer Saturday Academy, where we have some opportunities for parents to participate there. We solicit feedback for the LCAP and the development of the LCAP in-person meetings, our ethnic study committee meetings, our thought exchange, our surveys, our California Healthy Kids survey. Even the list I have there is not all encompassing. Some key strengths that we have is we do have a lot of opportunities for parents to engage and gather information at school sites, and various opportunities for them to provide input for planning purposes. Some of the feedback that we have received this year is there has been a request from some of our parents for more counselor-to-parent communication, more teacher-to-parent communication, and some more guidance in terms of steps for college and career readiness. So those are things that we are looking at for 24-25 to try to address. And then priority 6 is all about school climate. And there's a lot of data there, and I kind of tried to boil it down for you in the chart on the right. Our suspension rate has decreased, and this is data from 22-23. Our expulsion rate has remained very low and very stable. Our student connection to campus, you can see from the California Healthy Kids Survey, the percentage of 9th graders and 11th graders who feel a connection to campus. And since 2018 to 23-24, we've actually seen an increase for our 9th graders and a slight decrease for our 11th graders. Meaningful opportunities for participation, so boiling that connection piece down a little bit to try to understand a little more. You can see the 26% for our 9th graders and the 51% for our 11th graders, and those have both decreased slightly since 2018. Caring relationships with our teachers, very similar data to meaningful opportunities for participation. Our 9th graders have remained relatively stable, hasn't changed much, and our 11th graders have decreased a few percentage points. School safety has increased across the board. I only included the school safety from the students' perspective. 9th graders, 59%, and that has been an increase since 2018, and 46% for our 11th graders. If you look at our staff data and our parent data, that has also seen an increase in the past few years. So we've seen some positive trends upwards there. And then last but not least, priority 7 is access to a broad course of study. Trimester has been very helpful to us here. We offer 60 supplemental courses that are funded through supplemental funds, whether they're federal or whether they are the supplemental concentration funds in the LCAP. And the trimester system has made that access a little bit easier for some of our students. So we are looking at some of our priority groups here, our unduplicated pupils. That means our English learners, our socioeconomically disadvantaged, or our foster youth. When I last ran the numbers, it was 76.36%, and then the percentage of those students who are enrolled in those supplemental courses is very close, 72.63%, which is good. Ever English learners are students who have ever been an English learner. So whether they were redesignated or not, at some point in time, they were identified as an English learner during their educational journey. Our school is 53.37% ever English learners, and the percentage of those students enrolled in those supplemental courses is 53%, which is very good. And last but not least, our students with disabilities. Total, we have 14.92% of our students with disabilities, but some of those students are in very specific courses. Of the students who would have access to the general education courses, that's the 12.9% of our resource students, and you can see that we have 10.76% enrolled in those supplemental courses. So also still very close. And that is our local indicators. Any questions?
Could I ask a couple of questions about priority 6?
Yes.
So specifically, categories 3, 4, and 5, when it shows the student connection, meaningful opportunities, and caring relationships, and it shows that decreasing in 11th grade. So that means basically they felt like they were not getting that. Am I reading that correctly?
It means that we give the California Healthy Kids Survey every year. There were disruptions in terms of the pandemic, so some of the last really clean data we had was 18-19, and then because we had hybrid learning, the survey changed a little bit, so there's not a complete apples to apples, oranges to oranges comparison. But from 2018-19 to now, what we've seen is a slight decrease. Most of this has been within 10 percentage points or less. Most, I would say, are either up by 5 or down by 5. I believe that the meaningful opportunities for participation was a little bit closer to the 10% range, but only for the 11th graders.
Got it. So then
But-
we, oh, sorry. go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, to clarify, when you are talking about a trend from 1819 to the present, you're not comparing the same group of students to actually see any growth or decrease. It would be comparing the ninth graders from 21-22 to the 11th graders now, because it's the same group of kids, to see if their responses have changed.
Correct.
Got it. And then in the midst of that, we had COVID. So one would anticipate with the new, the ninth graders, as they move up, these numbers would decrease.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tu. Next, we have action item number 5, 2020, sorry, a vote. Carolampio, aye. Mr. Christensen?
Aye.
Mr. Jones is absent. Ms. Rodarte?
Aye.
Thank you. Then we have action item number 5, 2024-2025 Local Control Accountability Plan.
I'll make the motion that the board approve the 2024 to 2025 Local Control Accountability Plan as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you. Do we have a presentation for this?
No, the public hearing was held on June 18th, 2024. If the board has any questions on that presentation, we can answer them.
No questions? Okay, we will move straight to the vote. Mr. Carolampio says aye. Mr. Christensen?
Aye.
Mr. Jones is absent. Ms. Rodarte?
Aye.
And Area 2 is vacant. Business Services. Action item, adoption of district budget fiscal year 2024-2025.
I'll make the motion that the board approve the adoption of the district budget fiscal year 2024 as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you. And Ms. Mefford, can you please share your additional information with us?
Yes, thank you. During the public hearing, I was here, I gave a very detailed report to the 24-25 budget. And I said I had our excess reserves, and those are anything in excess of our required 3%. And I stated what we were using them for, but I did not give the actual amounts. So I have done that because the reserve amount has changed, and that is because the 23-24 budget has changed. So the only thing I can guarantee you is this total excess reserves is not going to be the same number by the time I close the books. Because as payroll is processing and the county just released our encumbrances, the retro hasn't posted yet, there's all these moving parts. But we've moved salaries from one fund from unrestricted to restricted. We're still doing lots of stuff. And as we get closer to closing out, the current year budget changes, which affects the beginning fund balance for the subsequent year. So when I came to you at the public hearing, we had a higher excess reserve because our current budget was lower. I've had to increase the 23-24 budget, so our reserves are a little bit lower, about $700,000 lower. But I have to state what the excess reserves are because the county requires that. So I have gone in, and the reason that we are keeping excess reserves above the 3% is we do expect lower ADA next year because we're on that 3-year average. And so it's about a 43 ADA reduction to the cost of $685,000. Increased sped cost, $245,000. And facilities and furniture replacement, it's unrestricted money and that's a very broad term, but I mean, we are always coming up with desks are breaking, something else happens, and our bond is pretty much done. Any money we have left this year has already been accounted for next year. So the reason that we have because right now we're at a 7% reserve in the end of 23-24, and the reason you can only have 3%, but the reason we have the extra is for these reasons here. So I do have to publicly announce why we're holding the excess reserves. Any questions?
Yes, so this would include the legally mandated 3%, and is there any excess above that 3% still? I know it's not 4%. more.
This is the excess excess
addition
of the
to-
3%. That's exactly
Okay,
what this
perfect.
is, the excess of
Okay.
3%.
That's what I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Yes. And so right now it's 1.79, but it's going to change.
Okay, thank you. We move on to the vote. Mr. Carlampio says aye. Mr. Christensen?
Aye.
Jones is absent. Ms. Rodarte?
Aye.
And Area 2 is vacant. Next, we have Superintendent and Human Resources, information item, revised new and deleted board policies, and administrative regulations and exhibits.
I'll make the motion, the revised new and deleted board policies.
It's actually an information item, so there is no motion.
Okay.
The revised new and deleted board policies and administrative regulations are presented as an information item for a first reading and will return as an action item at the next board meeting. Ongoing reviews and updates are necessary with board policies and administrative regulations as they enable the district to ensure the policies, regulations, exhibits, and bylaws conform to state and federal law. The district compares its policies, regulations, exhibits, and bylaws with the California School Boards Association recommendation. Additionally, the review serves as a reminder to the governance team and staff of the operational principles and implementation guidelines for the district. The revised, new, and deleted board policies, administrative regulations, and exhibits presented tonight as informational items for the first reading will be placed on the next agenda for action.
Thank you. Action item number 2, revised new and deleted board policies and administrative regulations and exhibits.
All right, now I will go for it. I move that the board approve in the second reading the revised new and deleted board policies, BP, administrative regulations, AR, exhibits E, and bylaws BB as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you. Carlampio, aye. Mr. Christensen?
Aye.
Mr. Jones is absent. Ms. Rodarte?
Aye.
And Area 2 is vacant. Next, we have an information item, new job description, English language facilitator.
Yes, this is an information item, and it will be on the next meeting agenda for action. The English language learner facilitator, supervised by the Director of Educational Services and Site Administration, will facilitate and lead the program in English language learner services, focusing on not just ELD, but also on long-term English learners. Responsibilities include overseeing implementation of benchmark assessments, curriculum, and pacing guides in English language development, providing strategies and support in content area data reflection sessions to improve instruction for long-term English learners, providing professional learning support for teachers and bilingual paraprofessionals, running Warrior Pride Time tutoring opportunities for English learners, and establishing a monitoring system for long-term English learners. The estimated amount or financial implications are $140,670 to be funded by supplemental concentration. This aligns with all LCAP goals. Furthermore, it will address some of the deficits that we presented or that Ms. Toon presented as part of the LCAP plan in the last meeting. The recommendation is for the board to review the new job description for an English language learner facilitator, and the item will return at the next agenda or at the next meeting as an action item on the agenda.
Thank you.
So assuming this is somebody that we want to have, that has broad experience in this area in order to accommodate all of the goals that we're trying to achieve.
Yes, that would be one of the goals, yes.
So this would be a new teacher.
No, we are looking at it as a TOSA, preferably someone in-house.
Okay. Next, we have action item number 4, Fallbrook Union High School District Annual Notification 2024-2025.
I'll move that the board approve the Fallbrook Union High School District Annual Notification 2024-2025 as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you. Now we will vote. Mr. Carlampio, aye. Mr. Christensen?
Aye.
Mr. Jones is absent. Ms. Rodarte?
Aye.
And Area 2 is vacant. Consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered by the Board of Trustees to be routine and will be enacted with one action. There is usually no discussion of these items prior to the time of the Board of Trustees vote on the motion unless members of the vote request specific items to be discussed or deleted from the consent agenda. Action item, go ahead.
I'll make the motion that the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you. Mr. Caralampio, aye. Mr. Christensen?
Aye.
Mr. Jones is absent. Ms. Rodarte?
Aye.
And Area 2 is vacant. Organizational matters. This is the appropriate place in the agenda for members of the board to request the superintendent provide further information regarding items discussed at this meeting and/or request that new items of business be placed on future agendas. Do we have any?
I think the only thing, as I just mentioned, or as Dr. Garza Gonzalez mentioned, is the job description for the ELL position. If we could have that ahead of time so that we've read it before our next meeting.
Yes, it's actually attached to the agenda, but I will also include it in my Friday communication.
My only point is just to publicly acknowledge, I won't be here for the July 10th. I'll be out of town, but if something changes, you'll be the first to know.
Thank you.
Okay. Date and time of next meeting. The next regular meeting of the Board of Trustees will be held on Wednesday, July 10th, 2024 at 4:30 p.m. in the library at Fallbrook High School. So, library?
Yes, as part of the ESSER 3 federal funds that we received, you will know that we are working on HVAC systems and improving those. So we are actually modernizing and improving the HVAC system here in the PAC. So we will be in the library for July and August, I believe, and I believe we return here in September.
Thank you. Adjournment. There be no further business to come before the board. The regular meeting of June 26, 2024 was adjourned at 6:53 by Oscar Caralampio. Thank you.